Hey there, folks. Jason again with Blue Label Bastards Wargaming, and I've got another battle report for you. And today's we're going to be talking about a fight I had with my first fight ever playing Wood Elves just this past Tuesday. 2,500 points. Warriors of Chaos versus Wood Elves with the Dawn attack scenario, which I don't like so much anymore. So, my army list, pretty much the same as the dwarf one. I made some tweaks to the characters, and so what I'm going to do first is talk about my army list and then kind of what I was hoping to do with this game with the lessons I learned from the dwarf engagement. If you want to go back and watch that video, it's the one right before this. So tweak the lord a little bit. Again, this is a fluffy list. It's all Khorne, no magic. Kind of a mix of foot and cavalry, so to keep some speed in the list. So Chaos Lord, Mark of Khorne, sort of might, I think, Helm of Many Eyes, Scaled Skin, 4 up, 4 up ward, so essentially 1 up armor, 4 up ward, +1 strength, so you should do pretty well in combat. Exalted Hero, BSB, Mark of Khorne, Halberd, Dawnstone, Enchanted Shield, Burning Body, and Poisonous Slime, so he has a 2 up rerollable armor save, and both flaming and poisonous attacks. 2 groups of 5 Warhounds with Vanguard. I'm always up in the air with Vanguarding because I also like to block my own frenzied guys from attacking. We'll see how that goes. And for core, 17 Warriors, Mark of Khorne, Halberd, Shields, Standard Musician, no Champion. 10 Forsaken of Khorne. And then I had a downsize from the last list, went from 7 to 5 Knights. And I was up in the air whether they give them the Standard Discipline for the +1 leadership or the Lichbone Pennant for the reroll, because I didn't want them charging off like they did last game, but decided to go with this. And then for my kind of combat block, heavy infantry block, 14 Chosen, Halberd, Shields, Flaming Banner, Musician, and Champion. And then a War Shrine of Khorne, and then 2 groups of 3 Skull Crushers with Musician and Standard. Now, I consider this to be a pretty fluffy, not particularly overpowered list. Yes, there are 2 groups of 3 Skull Crushers in there, and the Chaos Knights are tough, but everything is frenzied, so you can bait it all around the board. And when I saw that I was going to be playing Wood Elves, I kind of started to get worried. I knew if I got into combat with them, for the most part, I'd be okay, but I was worried about getting kited over the board. That actually didn't happen too much. It was just getting to grips with them that caused the problem. So my goal going into this game was not to get spread out, try to be as disciplined as I could with charges, stay focused, don't trickle units into charges, get some multi-charges off. And I think where I was able to get charges off, they worked really well, but I don't want to spoil the battle report. So my goal was essentially just to tighten up my how I did my charges, picking my fights, things along those lines. And so let's go take a look at the Wood Elves list. Now, good guy I played. I did forget to ask for his list, so if he wants to come on here and correct things, this is from memory. So I think I've got most of the units right. Obviously the kit, I'm not sure what it is. So his general was a Glade Lord. I'm pretty sure that was his general. Might have been the Spellweaver. Strength 6, it had the zippy cool bow, but kind of a combat character. And that went in his Eternal Guard. He had a Spellweaver, level 4 of High Magic with Soul Quench, Apotheosis, Hand of Glory, and Fiery Convocation. And whatever the thing is that is a little teleporty thing, get to pop around between different woods. And that went in what I'm pretty sure were the Deepwood Scouts. Could be wrong on that, though. Again, first time playing Wood Elves. Haven't really looked at the army book that closely. And then he had a level 2 Metal Spellsinger with Searing Doom and Plague of Rust and an Elven Steed. And that ends up going a little bit further down the list with 5 Sisters of the Thorn. He had a Glade Captain BSB. I have no idea of the kit. And he had a block of 20-ish Glade Guard, a block of 22-ish Eternal Guard, 5 Glade Riders, 2 groups of Wild Riders with full command. And we're going to talk more about those little bastards. The Deepwood Scouts, Sisters of the Thorn, and then he had a Tree Man with the shooty Strangle Rudy thing. So again, we rolled up Dawn attack, And I had to go back and look in the book, and I actually started to deploy wrong. And so it turned out it was random deployment, and I knew immediately, like, this is not what I need to have happen. I need to have my general in the middle, leadership 9 for the frenzy stuff. I need to keep my war shrine near my characters. So let's talk about how deployment went for me. All right. So for those of you that don't know, I think if you roll a 1, you deploy in the left corner. 2, 3, 4, you deploy in the middle. 5, you deploy in the right. And 6, you get to pick. So what did I roll? So I had a group of Skull Crushers and Knights. My Warhounds and the War Shrine rolled a 1. Not really what I wanted to have happen, but not terrible. And the Forsaken, another group of Warhounds, and a second group of Skull Crushers rolled the middle. So this is kind of the middle of my lines. I'm kind of trying to crowd over here a little bit. And then my chosen block rolls a 5, which means it's on the complete opposite side of the rest of the army and way the heck far away from the War Shrine. That sucks. And I have a decision to make with the Warriors, because with them I rolled 2, 3, or 4. You put them in the middle. So I could have abandoned the General's unit out there, but I wanted to keep discipline. You know, I didn't want to send units in by themselves. I want to have the BSB nearby. This might have been a mistake, because turns out I could have used the combat power on the left-hand side of the board, but I wanted to be disciplined because I didn't want to have my very expensive General's unit just get picked off, because he's got so much mobility. So that's how it ended up. So immediately, my magic phase is wasted, because the War Shrine needed to be within 12 inches, so that thing is doing nothing on the other side of the board, and there's really no way I'm going to be able to get across. So this is obviously one of the weaknesses of a foot-heavy list. And a Khorne-themed War Shrine list. This is one of the gambles you take, and I rolled the dice and lost. So before the game, my chosen rolled +1 attack. I was hoping for the +1 toughness. It would have been nice to have that extra die to roll with the War Shrine nearby, but the War Shrine was not nearby. So let's look at his army. So this is from his right flank, my left from my perspective. So we had the block of Glade Guard in the forest. Then I think Eternal Guard with the Lord and BSB, the Tree Man. Pretty sure it's the Deepwood Scouts with the level 4 high magic. You can see her kind of hanging off on the right side of his skirmish tray there. The Sisters of the Thorn with the level 2 metal there on the right side. And 2 groups of Wild Riders. And on his left flank, my right, nothing. And so you've kind of seen the terrain, a lot of forests. And then he gets to put down however many he wants. So there's a lot of forests here, and he can do his little teleporting thing, which he did some, but not a tremendous amount. So, Warriors turn 1. When in doubt, move forward. And you'll see there that forest that I ended up having to park the Warhounds in and the War Shrine in was a fungus forest, so they're stupid. I vanguarded out the Warhounds out first, just to get them out of there, and the War Shrine was fine. So everything else just moved up. I wanted to put pressure on his 2 infantry blocks immediately, and I wanted to get into combat because I didn't want to get shot at the whole time. And then up on the upper left there, I didn't mark it, but you can see his cavalry that's going to come in later. And the Skull Crushers went up, and then so what I wanted to do is, because he had the 2 Wild Rider groups in the center with the Sisters of the Thorn behind them, I wanted to bait them away with the Warhounds. So everything went up pretty strong here, and on the left, when in doubt, move forward, because I didn't think these guys were going to get into combat at all in the game. So, and I had no magic, and I had no shooting, so then we had no combat. So on to Wood Elves turn 1. And this is where I made a mistake. So you remember I had those Warhounds up there to redirect, because the Wild Riders are frenzied. For some idiotic reason, I fled when he declared his challenge, because I completely underestimated the charge. He just passed a leadership test and redirected into the Skull Crushers. And this is where I kind of start to respect Wild Riders. What I should have done is just given up the Warhounds, but I'm an idiot and completely blanked out. I don't know why I did it. It was a mistake. And the Warhounds fled through the building, popped out the building, went through all my units, popped out back into the fungus forest. Okay, so we'll see what happens to them later. And he moved his tree man up, and he kind of jiggered the Eternal Guard a little bit because I think he saw the mass of corn frenzied armor coming at his 2 infantry blocks. So he turned a little bit there. Probably a smart move. In his magic phase, he got off Searing Doom and killed off 4 of my corn warriors. But it was miscast. And he got a 7, and I think he ended up, I'm not sure if he put a wound on his caster over there. I don't think so, but he killed off one of the sisters. And then he did his little Wood Elfy fairy magic rainbow and whatever stuff, and magically appeared over on my right flank in the forest. He took a pot shot with something there, or took pot shots, and killed off one of my chosen. So that wasn't too bad. And then we went on to combat. And he did some other shooting, and it was largely ineffectual. He might have taken a wound off here or there and stuff. So I didn't realize quite how good Wild Riders were. So he did 5 wounds to me on the charge. Killed 1 Skullcrusher completely, killed 2 back. I killed all 5. You see how I turned here to face the other Wild Riders and the Sisters of the Thorn. So suddenly I was like, wow, these guys are the real deal. And my opponent, good guy, kept saying they're paper tigers. I'm like, they're more than paper tigers. They're paper tactical nuclear weapons, I would call them. So Warriors turn 2, continue to move forward. I'm trying to decide what to do with the Knights. Because, again, I don't want to make the mistake I made in the Dwarf game. I really want to make sure I get combo charges off because I need to break things on the charge. I'm going to have a hard time with Steadfast. But one of the things I saw that was an immediate threat that I just wanted to get rid of, and I thought I would have a not too hard of a time to doing it, was this stupid tree man. So I did really well with charges. Forsaken, for all their faults and why people don't like them, they do have a 6-inch move. And the Crushers, if you remember, so I kind of angled them, but I made sure that they could see around the building and catch the flank of the tree man. So rolled well, obviously got in, both front and flank. You can't really ask for more. Up here, this is probably a mistake. Well, this certainly was a mistake. I shouldn't have moved the warriors up, but I did. Because again, even though I just had a great example shown to me in the turn previous to see what the other group of Wild Riders did to my Skull Crushers, I moved the warriors up. You'll see what happens with this later in the game. And then here, I kind of, because this is a magic user, I turn to face to put pressure on him to make him get this unit out of here. Had I ignored them, I was afraid I was just going to get magic the whole game. If something bad happened. In hindsight, I'd probably been better off just ignoring the stupid unit and trying to hustle as fast as I could the other side of the board. I probably still wouldn't have made it, but it might have made things a little different. So this is what I did in my right flank. And then, so Magic Phase, again, pointless because I have nothing I can cast on. And here we did reasonably well. I think my Forsaken rolled up poison attacks. And they rolled well on the attacks. So I think they had 4 attacks each. So I would have needed 4s and 6s to wound from the Forsaken, and I think I rolled a couple of 6s to hit, so I got some poisons through, and the Skull Crushers did reasonably well. He smartly focused on the guys in the front because they're easier combat res. So he did 3 wounds. He lost combat. He loses combat every round, just spoiler alert. But of course, he's leadership 10, stubborn, and he's stuck. This is the story of never being able to get the High Elves, or the Wood Elves, able to fail a leadership test. So, and I saw him, I really kind of wanted to break the, tree man, run him down, because I knew this was going to be coming. So my opponent goes to roll, and he rolls, I think, double 1s on his charge. So he fails his charge into the front of my Skull Crushers. So I've got one more turn of respite here to try to finish off this stupid tree man. So he was pretty upset about that, and it wasn't angry, but that should have been a pretty easy in charge for them, and it wasn't. So then, I forget what they're called, but his fast cav come on the side here just to harass. And he's starting to get the tape measure out. I'm getting a little worried about this because we're getting to the magic phase. And so what does he do? And remember, so I have no casters, so I get whatever power dice I get, I don't channel. And so my game plan is to be like, I can probably block one spell per magic phase. And so I got to save it. So he casts Curse of Anra here on this unit. And I'm like, we're already in combat. Yeah, I'll be -1 to hit. So I'll be hitting on 4s instead of 3s because I think Wild Riders are weapon skill 4. My Warriors are weapon skill 5. So I'll be hitting on, okay. But I got to save up for another spell. So I let this one go through. Because I'm not worried about them doing any dangerous terrain tests or anything. And then he gets off Fiery Convocation on the other, my Skullcrusher unit. And I think he might miscast this. Either that or I failed to dispel. So he kills off one full Skullcrusher. And he might, I think in shooting the phase, it might have done a wound on it already. So he might have done 2 wounds here. So I'm down a Skullcrusher over here on my left flank. And then we go on to the Wild Rider combat. And so, again, I didn't know exactly what these guys did. I didn't realize they had Devastating Charge. So essentially this unit should have 15 attacks, I think. So they get, each guy gets a base 1 attack. They're frenzied, so 2 attacks. And Devastating Charge is 3 attacks each. So that's for 4 of them, that's 12. So maybe 16 attacks. And so because it's always strike first, we go at the same time. So my BSB kills other guys at the same time that he attacks me. So I don't get to kill anything first. I thought it was based on initiative. Even if it always strikes first, you'd still go to initiative order, but it turns out it happens simultaneously. So that's 16 attacks, needing 4s to hit, rerollable, and 3s to wound, because he's strength 5 on the charge. I'm toughness 4. And he rolls 12 wounds and no armor save, because these guys are 4-up armor. And so I have to pick up 12 guys. And I think my BSB killed 3, my champion killed 1, but there's 1 bastard Wild Rider left. And he pursues, but I get away. I have never seen that. I did not expect that much damage output. I think even my opponent was a bit surprised by that. That really stung. Fortunately, my general's unit is frenzied and doesn't care because they're gibbering berserkers. So, Warriors turn 3. We got to get a little revenge here. So, I send in both the Skullcrushers and the Knights into his Glade Guard unit. I thought there's some more characters in there, and I kind of looked up, and nope, they're just a Glade Guard unit. So the reason I sent it into this and not his general's unit was it would have been a lot longer. It was a long charge for both. I think it might have been I needed to roll like a 8 or a 9 for both these units to get in, and it would have been a longer charge. I didn't want to send the Knights in piecemeal and the Skullcrushers. I want to be disciplined. So, sent both these guys in. In the magic phase, I threw all the dice that I had at Dispelling Fire Convocation and did. So we're into combat here. If you'll look right, I'm not sure if the mouse is going to show up here, but right here, I should have pushed the Skullcrushers over to the left more to move the Knights over to the left more, because I really wanted to be out of this charge arc. And in fact, when I saw, and this is the other side of the table, when I saw this, I was like, oh, okay, well, if he does a wound to the Knights, I'll peel that guy off, and then he probably won't be able to make that charge into my flank. We'll see how that goes. And then, so his whatchamacallit unit does its little rainbow cloud thing and pops back into the forest over here. There's the cloud. And over here, because at this point I realized the general's unit's not going to be able to do anything the rest of this game, I turn him around. I attempt to do a a quick reform and fail, so I just turn him because the Wild Rider is going to want to get the points for the Warriors, and so I'm going to get my revenge. So we go into combat. Again, I told you what I did, magic phase, no shooting. Combat. This combat here goes pretty well. He doesn't fail his fear check or anything, but I kill about 10. I can't see exactly how many I killed. I think he had 2 full ranks left, so he was steadfast. And he did 1 wound to the Skull Crushers and no wounds to the Knights. So he is steadfast. He's on a 10 with his general with a reroll, and he makes it. I don't think he needs a reroll. So now you can see the my opponent there looking at the flank of the Knights, and that's a pretty juicy charge. So that doesn't bode well. So Wood Elves turn 3. He turns around to face the dogs. You remember from turn 1 that fled. They rallied and had turned. So he's turning around to face them. And then he catches the last warrior and turns to face my general's unit. And he gets off a gangbusters magic phase here. And this is one of those things where you save the dice for the important spell, and then he rolled the important spell, and it was double 6s. So he got off Plague of Rust on the Knights, dropped their armor save by 1, and I let it go because, again, am I going to really save for that? I figured the Knight unit was dead anyways. He got off Hand of Glory to bump up his weapon skill by 2, so I think I'm hitting him on 5s. Yeah. And he's just banking wounds on his high magic dude over there for the lore, even though I'm never going to be able to get in combat with him for the lore attribute. And then this was a killer, and I was saving the dice for this, and I think this one might have been the miscast. He gets Apotheosis off on the Tree Man, and he gets all of the wounds that I have managed to get off the Tree Man. They're all back on, which sucks. So I've got a unit of heavily depleted Skull Crushers and a unit of Forsaken barely hanging on with this stupid Tree Man. So over here in the shooting phase, he takes pot shots at the Warhounds, but I make my leadership test. Shocked. And so here. We massacre the the remainder of the Glade Guard. I put all my attacks up there. I attempt to challenge with my Knight Champion. He accepts with his Lord. I'm hoping that if the Knight Champion can just stay alive, then the rest of that unit can't put any attacks on the Lord unit or on the Knight unit. And he doesn't. So I only lose 2 Knights. So I think I actually win combat. I think. I forget what exactly happens. So the Skull Crushers are out of combat. I turn them or I reform them so I have choices. I can either send them in against the Eternal Guard, or I can go after the Tree Man. And over here, we win combat again. I get 3 more wounds back on. So I've got a Skull Crusher with 1 rune remaining. He kills off all the Forsaken. And at this point, I'm looking around at the board, and I don't like the way it's going anyway. So, and I want this Tree Man dead. It'll be a Pyrrhic victory, but it'll be a small victory for me. But he turns to reform the Tree Man against the Skull Crusher. So Warriors turn 4. I got a 40-point dog unit left that he's just going to reform and shoot. So I charge in, I lose 1, make leadership, and I am in base to base. It's a suicide mission. It's a Bruce Springsteen song. It's a suicide rap. These guys are going down, but I might take one with me. We'll see. And then here, so decide with the Skull Crushers. I'm not going to be able to break Steadfast on the Lord unit, the Eternal Guard unit, so I'm going to go for revenge on this Tree Man. So make that charge. He's in, and the War Shrine is in the Tree Man's flank. So the Tree Man's should die this round. And in combat over here, as predicted, the knights fall, and I'm not sure. I think they fall before they even get to hit, so that's a bummer. Here, the general's unit with the chosen successfully makes their charge, and Lord by himself just squishes the Wild Rider like a bug. And here we finally kill, and it was actually just the Skull Crushers that charged. They took the last wounds off of the Tree Man, and so here, the Skull Crushers are there because they couldn't overrun because the other Skull Crusher was facing left. So they just stopped. I reformed the Skull Crusher with 2 wounds remaining to look that away, to maybe go after the General's unit, or the level 4's unit up there in the woods, and I turned the War Shrine sideways, because I know that with the crazy movement that these guys have, I just wanted to have as much of an arc covered as possible. So, Wood Elves turn 4. He moves up, and in the shooting phase, he kills off, and shooting and magic, I forget exactly what it is, he kills off all the Skull Crushers. He kills off the 2 here, I think he got a good Searing Doom off, and then he shot off the other one, which sucks. So there goes all of my heavy cavalry. And doesn't do anything to the War Shrine, which in my turn just turns to face. And the chosen unit, I'm not even sure if I moved it or not. I think I may have turned it because it's so far out of position. So this is all I can do here. And Wood Elves turn 5, so bottom of turn 5, he is going for broke on the War Shrine. So I don't know what I think it might have been a really low magic phase. But so he moves up he didn't charge in the Eternal Guard, I don't think. He just moved them up, but shoots at them with everything. I think he might get 1 wound through. And attempts magic. I'm making my ward saves like a boss. So Khorne may hate the rest of the army, but he likes his War Shrine. And that's the game. So I added up the points because we didn't do it during the game. And he probably killed... I probably got like 800 or 900 points out of his army with the Tree Man, the Glade Guard, the 2 units of Wild Riders. I think that's all I killed. And so he got everything except the Lord, the Chosen unit. So that's about 800 points there. And the War Shrine. So he killed 1,500 plus. So it was definitely a strong victory for the Wood Elf player. You know, it was frustrating from the beginning of this one for me. I still had a blast playing, but it was very frustrating that after kind of getting nailed in the deployment phase in the Dwarf game, I took it in the shorts again in this game. Just by having my infantry so far away from my cavalry. My War Shrine was far away from the 2 characters that could buff. That compounded with an army that has so much, an opponent's army that has so much maneuverability. I knew it was going to be an uphill battle from the very beginning. Fortunately, Khorne-based lists, if you can get them into combat, they can do a lot of damage, and you saw that on the left flank, at least a reasonable amount. So there was some flexibility in there. All in all, I guess I'm pretty happy how I played the cards I was dealt. Given the overrun issues, I didn't have too many problems with Frenzy. I didn't fail any Frenzy checks I didn't want to fail. I wouldn't have declared a charge anyways. I think I made the right decisions except for 2 notable instances. The first one was when I fled with the Warhounds, that first Wild Rider charge. I should have just taken it. They would have overrun. And I could have nailed them with the Knights or something, or the Forsaken, or whatever. And then the Warriors, moving them up so close to the other unit of Wild Riders, they just hung back and made them try to make a long charge. Maybe they would have failed, and I could have gotten into combat with them. I'm not sure how much it would have fundamentally changed the outcome of the game, because they still would have had to walk their way across the board, but I would have felt a lot better about myself. Although hopefully the Wild Riders feel good about themselves for killing 12 Warriors on the charge. That was unbelievable. Yeah, Wild Riders, awesome. New respect for them. So what's the way ahead for me, Warhammer-wise? I try to get a game in about once a week, but I am working up a Tomb King's army slowly. In fact, I just got a model to represent a Hydra Titan from somebody overseas I'm going to do a review on separately. But I think the Khorne list in and of itself is gonna go away. I just think the army needs magic. It doesn't. Well, this army could really benefit from magic, and so I'll probably do more of a mixed list. I like having my Chimera in there. I like having a sorcerer to be able to do stuff, at least to block his spells, my opponent's spells. So I think these guys might get a rest. It's still fun to play, but I've just gotten 2 bad scenarios so far. One, I think I played this game better than the last one, but still. I feel like I'm getting, I haven't reaped enough skulls yet. But in sum, and I want to thank my opponent. Great game, a lot of fun, fair bit of banter back and forth. Look forward to playing him again, perhaps with a different list. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe, like, and comment, and happy wargaming.